Ladles and jelly spoons, welcome back to Badgerworks. Today, this. This is the USS Jimmy Carter, SSN-23 in 1/700th scale from Hobby Boss. And this is what we're going to build today. So let's get on with it. So yes, this is indeed the famous Jimmy Carter, not the president obviously, but named after the president. And this was the third and final of the Seawolf class of nuclear fast attack submarines. Now, this was built or finished in about 2004, I think, something like that. Launched about a year later. Built at Electric Boat in Groton, Connecticut, and was the third and final of the Seawolf class. Now, originally, they had planned to build, I think, like 13 of these or something, quite a lot. And they were designed to replace the Los Angeles class attack subs. But with the end of the Cold War, it was just like, yeah, we don't need that many. So they cancelled the order and they only built 3 of them. The Jimmy Carter is actually different to the other 2. It's 100 feet longer than the other 2. And that's because it has a section, a 30-meter section in the middle of this boat that's called, what's it called? I can't remember. The multi-mission platform. That's it, the MMP. And it was designed as like a reconfigurable space to increase the utility of the boat. So you could use it for launching underwater ROVs. You could use it for deploying submersibles for special forces and stuff like that. It even had the ability to splice undersea cables. So you could basically use it as like a repair thing. But anyway, there you go. So that was the big difference between the Jimmy Carter and the others. Anyway, let's get this thing out of the box and have a look at it. Right, there's I don't know. Oh, the instructions are on the back of the box. Yeah, because there's like 4 pieces to this thing. Yes, it comes with a little display stand that you can use, and then you have the top and half. Sorry, I'm breaking these teeth in for a horse. You have the top and bottom halves of the hull. It's got 2 different conning towers, a diving tower and a surface tower. So there are a couple of options, and it has some decals and things. So we are not going to do any of this because we're going to put this in the water because, you know, it's a submarine. Let's have a look at the parts. Let's get out of this bag. Oh, good grief. A bag full of bags. We all know how I feel about that, but we won't. So this is the stand. I'm going to leave it in the bag because I'm not going to use it. But it's quite a cool little thing. It's got the name and all that on it, on both sides. So that's quite cool. I say we won't be using that, but, you know, it's a nice touch. The decals, which are in another bag, because of course they are, because you can never have too many plastic bags. Someone actually put a comment on one of my other videos saying I should stop moaning about plastic bags. It's like, shut up. If you don't like it, don't watch. Well, no, it's just, you know, we're supposed to be saving the planet, right? And we're already using too much plastic. Oh, come on. I'm trying to get... There we go. Right, let's just snip through that. I'd imagine these decals are going to be quite small because obviously the scale of the thing. Oh, and they're all white as well. So you probably can't see any of those. I can barely see them myself. This is going to be hilarious. But yeah, we'll worry about that later. I'm sure they'll be fine. I'll put this over there. And now the actual thing. So, as I said, this is very basic. So let's have a look. So this is the top of the hull. This is the bottom. We won't be using the bottom. Now, the other option it has as well is you can have the dive planes either extended or retracted, which is quite cool. I'll have to have a look actually, because I don't know if they have the dive planes. I'm sure they must have the dive planes extended when they're on the surface. I don't know. And then again, you've got the two conning towers, the one with everything like withdrawn for when it's underwater, and then the one with all the antennae and whatnot on it. Although I have to say, I'll have to have another look at this, because I've got some reference photos and it doesn't look like this. The tall ones are at the back and the shorter ones are at the front, unless I've been looking at it wrong. But yeah, I'll have to figure that out. These little bits here, these are the cradles that go into the base. So that's what the thing sits on. But yeah. Oh, actually, one thing that's going to be kind of awkward. Just realised. This is well, I was going to say the propeller. It's not really a propeller. It uses like a water propulsion thing. It's a single reactor, by the way, this boat. And apparently the engine, if you like, 45,000 horsepower. That is nuts. Yes, so that goes on the back there. But you see that the little bit that it fits on is actually moulded as part of the bottom, lower half of the hull. So we'll have to figure something out for that. There's a little bit of flash in there as well. But apart from that, it actually doesn't look too bad. Right. This shouldn't actually take too much in the way of painting, but I've got some ideas for things. I'd say I've got some reference pictures. Let's get some of this stuff cut off and get it put together. I mean, to be honest, putting it together is going to take a couple of minutes. It's going to be the painting of it that's going to be the interesting bit. Right, let's get started. And I'll put the extended dive planes on. I don't know if that's right or not. Anybody in the comments who knows anything about submarines can let me know. Oh, and we need this as well. Right, I'm just cleaning up these bits that I've just cut off. So there's a couple of things we need to keep in mind here. Because we're going to have this in the water, we need to have it flat. So you can see here it's got these bits that stick out that are designed to join the two halves of the hull together. So we'll just snip those off and we'll get down as low as we can into the hull, so they're below the surface like that. So that's all easy enough. Obviously I've cleaned up where I cut it off the sprue. Now the other thing is this dive plane is designed to go in this way up. So you can see it's got these like locating pins on it. They're gonna have to go as well. They won't do us any good for what we're doing anyway, so we'll just snip those off. And what we'll do is we'll just quickly stick this on, just to be giving it a chance to dry. So we'll just get that in the middle like that, somewhere like that. Good enough for government work, as Bunny Kitten always says. Although it is kind of ironic because and I have checked and she doesn't mind me saying this, Bunny Kitten actually lives in Groton, Connecticut, so there you go. There you go. So that's that. We'll put that to one side for a minute. Now the other thing we need to talk about is the conning tower. So as suspected, as I mentioned at the beginning, I think, they have actually got this backwards. So this curved bit goes at the front. And they put these four things on here, and they've kind of got it backwards because let me get a pointy thing. I'll just use the knife. So these two here should be at the back, and then this spindly one should be at the front and this one should be behind it. So it is, look, that's the squirrels and the magpies. I don't know if you can hear that thumping in the back. Yep, can you hear that? That's the squirrels fighting over the bird feeder outside. Little rat bags. Anyway, will you stop? Anyway, yes, so these two should be in this orientation but at the front, and these two should be the other way around at the back. I could cut them off and stick them back on, but do you know what? I'm not going to. I might do, we'll see. The other thing is this bit here. They've got this little raised bit here, and I'll show you a photo or two of the actual boat in question. And this is not raised like this. I don't know why they've done this. But yeah, they've got it raised. And they've also put these various little bits on. And I think I know why they've done it. And I'm actually quite glad they have, in a way. But if you look at some of the photos, and I'll show you, I think the reference photos they may well have used. There are certain bits on the conning tower that have obviously been resealed, and they have like a grey, I don't know, some kind of probably sealant or something on them. And so what they've done is they've kind of recessed those bits that have been done, and I am actually going to try and paint those. We'll see that later. But this here should not be here, so I'm going to cut it off. So give me a minute to get this cut off. And then what we'll do is we'll just do it with paint, which is the way it is on the original. I've just got to be careful not to remove too much material. It might have been easier to have sanded it off, actually, but we'll see how it goes. You know what? I think I am going to swap these round. It's kind of bugging me. So I've got my razor saw here. This is the JLC saw. You've seen me use this before. And it has an incredibly... I don't know if I can actually show you how thin this blade is, but it's like, I think it's like 1/4 millimeter. But what we're going to do is we're just going to very carefully come in and just snip these off. So there's one. I've got to be careful not to lose these. That's two. Now this one's going to be hilarious. We'll leave that one till last. Right. That's that one. And now for this little tiny one. This is the one that's going to go twang and disappear, you watch. There we go. Oh, it didn't. Marvellous. That was lucky. Right, let's just clean up the top of this. Right, there we go. So what we'll do, in fact, I'll tell you what might be a good idea. Just thinking about this, I might just actually stick this on here. And then that way, that will give us something to attach, you know, to hold it. Right, let's just make sure that is straight, which it isn't. Now it is. Right, we'll give that a minute to dry, and then we'll try and stick those bits back on. The other thing I want to do, and this is going to be absolutely hilarious, is I want to try and cut this in half, and I'm really not sure how I'm going to do this, but I think what I might try and do see if I can hold this with a pair of tweezers and see if I can cut this in half. So feel free to point and laugh. We'll see how well this goes. Oh, that went way better than expected. Oh, marvellous. That went much better than I thought it was going to. And what we can do is, once we've got these bits stuck back on, we can stick this on the back. But let's just pop that to one side for a minute. And let's see if we can stick these things back on here. Which again is going to be absolutely hilarious. Okay, so I think if we go from the back to the front, now let me have a quick look at my reference picture, because after going through all of this to get it wrong again, so the tallest one goes at the back, which is this one. And I'm not, hang on a minute, I'm not entirely sure those two back ones go side by side. Hang on. No, I think they do. I think they go side by side. It's very difficult to tell, but I think they go side by side, which is going to be absolutely hilarious. But this one definitely goes at the back. So let's get hold of this in the tweezers, and then this is going to go twanging off across the room and we'll never see it again. And then we'll be doing it with the with the diving the diving conning tower. It's fine, everything's fine. You know what? Let's just give this a little sand, because the bottom of it is slightly wonky. That looks a bit better. Okay. Oh dear. So I think that goes about there. Stay. My God, I can't believe that actually worked. That is actually in the right place. Oh dear, why am I doing this? You should always give your sub the respect it deserves. Stop laughing at the back. Right, let's see if we can get this one on. So we want to put that next to it. I think that actually goes like slightly in front of it, but I'm not sure. It's very difficult to tell from the pictures. What you really want is like a top-down shot, but I couldn't find any. Oh, no, that didn't work. Right, that is definitely crooked, but it's on. And so what we can do is just maneuver that like that. That one seems, that's actually slightly wonky as well. Go on, go up that way a bit more. There we go. That's more like it. Of course, I've got to paint these things later, which is going to be even funnier. Right, now this goes on this way round. Not entirely sure what this thing is, but do submarines even have periscopes anymore? I don't know. My only real experience with submarines is Das Boot. Oh, right, you go there. Stay. There's way too much glue on there. There we go. Right, is that in the middle? No, it isn't. Not even close. Oh dear. Just talk amongst yourselves for a minute. I think somewhere like that. It's almost vertical as well. Why am I doing this? I could have just left it as it was. These things seem way overscaled for this anyway. But I suppose what can you really do at this kind of scale? Everything's either tiny or ridiculous. But there you go. Right, I think that's good enough for that. And now this one goes at the front and it wants to be t'other way up. Let's just quickly clean the bottom of that up a little bit, which is going to be great. Yeah, while I'm putting this on, if any of you are unfamiliar, as I mentioned earlier, Groton is the home of Electric Boat, General Dynamics Electric Boat, which is where they build a lot of submarines. It's the self-proclaimed sub-capital of the world. So, and a huge number of people that live in the area are directly or indirectly employed by Electric Boat. Obviously, it's a huge contributor to the local economy. As I said, it's I know this because, as I mentioned, Bunny Kitten lives there. So there you go. Hello, Bunny Kitten. Love you. And she has some involvement with them, which we won't go any further than that. Right. So now that's done, let's see if we can stick this on, because I think that might even go roughly where it needs to be. Something like that. Let's see if we can do this without flooding everything in glue. Right, you go there like that. And no, don't stick to the paper. Right, let's try and... Right, there we go. That'll do for that. Doesn't look too bad, does it? I might have a little play with these just to make sure they're upright. I won't tell you again. And once it's really nice and dry, we'll put some primer on it. A crisis has arisen in our affairs. in news that will surprise no one, things are not going according to plan. But it's not my fault. It is not my fault. So I was, while I was waiting for this to dry and before I put the primer on, I was going to start on the base. But we have a problem. I've already printed the base. It's a 3D printed base. And the problem is the box has lied in news that will surprise no one. So if I show you this here, so it says here, length 105 millimeters, beam 20.1 millimeters. So I was like, okay, this thing's about 4 inches long. Now, there are bases that I use. Let me show you. I've got one here. So this is the base I was going to use. We'll talk more about this base later. But we are now not going to use this base. This is the same kind of base that I used for the Missouri build that I did. Now, this base is 200 millimeters from end to end. Okay? It doesn't fit. The reason it doesn't fit, now remember on the box, it said that the length was 105 millimeters. Like I said, that's about 4 inches. What we actually have here is a length of, I don't know if you can see that, 195 millimeters, which is 7 3/4 inches. So this thing is nearly twice the length that it claims it is on the box. So I'm gonna have to print a new base. But that's fine, it's fine, it doesn't matter. It's just slightly annoying. But yes, I will go and put a new base together and print it. But there you go. Anyway, I'll put some primer on this and then we'll go on from there. Right, this primer is now dry, so we can give it a coat of this XF85 rubber black. That's going to be our first coating. Oh, something jet powered flying overhead. Still no idea what that is. Anyway, onwards. You might also be wondering why I'm using rubber black and not just flat black. And it's basically because submarines, modern submarines, are coated with a, I think they call it an anechoic substance, something like that, that basically helps cut down their acoustic profile, because obviously you want them to be as quiet as possible. There you go, I'll give this a couple of coats and then we'll see what it looks like. Right, this is where the fun's really starting. Now the black's dried, I'm just masking up the conning tower to put the, whatever that grey, I don't know if it's paint or sealant or what it is. So I've done one side, as you can see, and I've tried to follow the reference pictures as much as I can, but the thing is, these things are so tiny that it's very difficult. But basically what I've been doing is this is an old kitchen tile, or just a tile. And it's very useful for doing things like this, because you can stick your masking tape down flat and then use it like a cutting board. And I've just been cutting little tiny squares and shapes to basically fit, you know, what I need. So, and then it's the really fun bit is trying to get these bits on. So, and it's going to be absolutely hilarious trying to do this in front of the camera. So I'll do one just to show you if I can, but it's not easy, as you can imagine. So we'll just try and put that down like that, and then maneuver it into place, and then just press it down like that, you see. But like I said, I've done the other side. I've also put the bit on the front, because if you remember, it had that big like plastic bit on it that, I mean, why that was there I don't know, but see, they have actually put, I don't even know if the camera's picking these up, but they have put these little bits that are supposed to, I think, represent whatever those things are. But it's not really ideal, but so I'm just using those as a guide. So let me put the rest of these on, and then we'll think about how on earth we can actually paint this thing, because trying to mask this up is going to be hilarious, and then trying to paint it is even worse, but we'll see what we can do. Right, now that's all masked up, I'm going to use this XF53 neutral grey and see if I can paint around it. I think I'm going to use a brush. I've got my my little wet palette here. I'm just keeping it out of shot because the camera likes to try and focus on it. But we'll get some paint in the wet palette and see how that goes. Right, this is going to be hilarious. I need that brush a bit wetter. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to get something that looks vaguely like the reference picture. And the other thing to keep in mind is that as this paint dries, it will get lighter. So it may not look like much going on, but it will actually lighten up as it dries. Like that, you see. So I will do the rest of this, and then we'll take the masking tape off and see what it looks like. Right, there we go. That doesn't look too bad, does it? There's the other side. It might look a bit leery at the moment, but I'm going to tone this this whole thing down a little bit later with some washes and things. So hopefully that will like tidy it up a little bit. Although they are quite obvious when you look at the pictures. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to mask off the top of the conning tower and paint that with the same grey. So let me just get that masked up, and then we'll spray that as well. Right, there we go. That's the top of that grey. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do a little touch in a few little bits with this. This is Citadel Corax White. It's kind of an off-white, so I think it'll work for this. But I'll just put that on with a brush. Right, let's see how well this works. This is going to be hilarious trying to get this all the way around evenly, but we'll give it a go. Now this one at the front is completely white. Let's just take that off there for a minute to make it a bit easier to maneuver. And again, this is probably one of these situations that we have so often in my videos where you can probably see what's going on better than I can. Try and get it in there now. Right, let's just get on the back of that. Right, I think that will do us. Doesn't look too bad, does it? Oh, little flying thing. So yeah, one more little touch up on there, and then we're going to varnish the whole thing. Right, now the last thing to do, and it's a bit probably over the top, but we'll see. If you look very closely at the picture, the top of this front thing actually has a red light on it. So I'm just going to put a little dab of red on the top there. Plus that, it'll give it a bit of interest, because let's face it, this thing so far is basically shades of grey and black. But anyway, there you go. So I'll give this a brush off, make sure there's no dust on it, and then I'll hit it with some high coat gloss lacquer, and then we can put the decals on. Yeah. Right, I've just been putting the decals on, and I'm just going to put the last one on, so I thought I'd show you this one at least. There's not that many decals on it, to be honest. There's a couple on the front, a couple on the back. It does have numbers on the conning tower. I'm not putting those on, for the simple fact that every reference picture I've looked at of this boat, there are no numbers on it. So yeah, we're not putting those on. But this is the last one to go on, and this goes on the back. So I have got my Mr. Mark setter as ever, and we'll just put a little drop there. About that much should do. And we will pop this into place. It probably would have been a good idea to put my glasses on, but it's too late now. Right, I will put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Although if I put my glasses on, sometimes I still can't see what I'm doing, but you know, it is what it is. Okay, that is completely the wrong way around. That should be like that. And I'm just going to pick that up again, because I want to make sure I get it roughly in the right place, because it's supposed to go in the middle of that, whatever that feature is on the back of it. So that looks straight to you? Yeah, good enough for government work, as Bunny Kitten always says. And then we just use a cotton bud to push it down and squeeze out any excess. These are actually really nice, these decals. They go on really well, and they conform. I mean, you can see there's a, you know, two big ridges, and it's conformed to that very nicely. So yes, well done, hobby boss. Your decals are approved. So there you go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give this a spritz of matte lacquer to seal it, and then we're going to do a little bit of weathering. So we'll move on to that. Right, this is pretty much dry now, dry enough for our purposes anyway. So what we're going to do, last step really, is a bit of weathering. So what I've got here are some oil paints. These are the Crawford and Black, the cheapy set. You've seen me use these before. These come from, what's it called? The Works. These, you get 12 tubes and they're very cheap. And there's a reason they're cheap, it's because they're not very good. But the funny thing of it is, as I've mentioned before, the problem with these is that they have very little oil in them. So they're not very good as oil paints, but they are exceptionally good for weathering. So that is disgusting. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some of this to put some streaking on this. So I've got a bit of cardboard here, so we'll just squeeze out a bit of paint, and we only need a little bit. And the reason that I'm squeezing out onto the cardboard here is to basically get rid of what little oil there is in it. You can see it already, like soaking into the cardboard. So that's fine. And so what we'll do is we'll just take a suitably old brush. Not that one. This one will do. And this is again one of these Humbrol ones, and it's lost its point. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically take some of our paint on the brush, and we're just going to put a few blobs on in strategic spots just here and there, basically up at the top here, and I'll show you why in a second. I'll do a little bit, and so you can see, and then I'll do the rest of it afterwards. But basically what we're going to do is put someone like that, just fairly haphazardly, and then we take a little brush like this. This is a fan brush, and I've got a little pot here with some white spirit in it, just cheap stuff, and we just wet the brush, then we tap it on a bit of kitchen paper to get most of it off, and then what we do is we come in like this and we streak the paint like so. And the nice thing about this fan brush, again, it's a cheap one, so as soon as it gets wet it just clumps up like that, which is not really what you want if you're painting, but for this kind of thing it's perfect. And what we do is we just work that paint like that, you see. And the idea of this is we don't want it filthy, you know, but it's one of these things that when you know, because the boat is in salt water, obviously when it comes to the surface and the water dries, it can leave like salt stains and things like that on it. So that's what we're kind of aiming for. So we just want to be fairly haphazard with this, and we're going to take most of this off, but we'll just use the brush, you know, however we need to, and just get rid of most of that paint, and then we can just come back in and just, you know, manipulate the paint to get the look we want. And like I say, all we want to do really is just create some streaks like that. So hopefully you can see that. So what I will do is I will continue and do the rest of the boat, and then once that's dry, I'm going to seal it with some matte lacquer. Oh, I should have mentioned actually, I made a mistake earlier. I realised I said I was going to put matte lacquer on it. It was gloss lacquer that I put on. And the nice thing with putting gloss on for something like this is if you don't like the effect, you can literally just wipe it off and start again. But we'll get this looking the way we want, and then I will then give it some matte lacquer to seal everything, and then we can make a start on the base. Right, so as I said, we're going to move on to the base now, and I just want to talk about something that I mentioned briefly earlier, but I'm going to talk about it again. I can't remember if I actually mentioned it before. So this is not actually the base we're going to use, but this is another one that I've got for another project, and this is straight off the printer, and hopefully you can see that, but you can see here on the edge it's got this kind of like textured effect, and that's called fuzzing. It's giving a fuzzy surface, and that's part of the printing process, and it's something that is very useful when you're printing, because for example, if you look at the inside, and I don't know if I can get the light to catch it, but you can see, hopefully, hang on, let me have a, yeah, there we go. So if you see those kind of like the facets and the layer lines, you can see on the inside there, but on the outside they've all gone. Focus here. Anyway, there you go. And basically what it does, and I actually did record a little bit of the printer going, I hope I'll remember to put it in. But the way this surface is created is as it's printing this layer, it kind of oscillates and creates this like textured effect, and it just basically makes the whole thing look a bit nicer, and it means that you don't have to deal with all of this. So there you go, that's fuzzing. Anyway, that's beside the point. Let's put that to one side. Because this is the base we're actually going to use, as you can see, this is slightly bigger, mainly because the ones I normally use, the boat doesn't fit, because as I mentioned before, the box lied to us. But anyway, that's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some paint in this just to give it like a sea effect, and then we're going to put a water effect on the top. So we need some paint. Let me get some paint. Right, that took longer than it should have done because Katie keeps stealing all my paints. I don't mind, she uses them. So what I've got is, this is phthalo blue? I don't know. But it's a nice dark blue, and then I've got some grey. And we're going to mix these together and give us a nice kind of like sea grey, blue grey effect. So we'll mix some of this up and see what it looks like. That'll do. So this is just like a dessert pot. we go through a significant amount of desserts in our house, and it's worth keeping all the pots and things for stuff like this. So we'll just splodge some of this in here. Like that. And then we'll put some grey in there as well. We'll just do a little bit to start with. That's probably way too much. And we'll get a stirrer. And give this a mix and see what it looks like. Right, I might even put a little drop of green in that, hang on. Right, this is chromium oxide green, but it's just green. It doesn't really matter what green, just some green. Right, let's put a blob of that in there. Let's see what that does. We might need to put a bit of water in this as well. Whoop, that's way too much. That's fine, everything's fine. Yeah, that's way too much water. About a teaspoon would have been more than enough, but it's okay. We just get it all mixed up nicely. Right, that looks about right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to paint the base, the inside of the base with this. So I need a suitable brush, a big brush. This brush will do. This is from the Early Learning Centre, when the Early Learning Centre was still a thing. And we'll just pour that in there, like that. And then we'll spread it around with our brush. This will probably need a couple of coats, because what happens is as it settles and shrinks as it dries, it kind of sinks into the layer lines on the print and shows them up rather well. So, but we'll just move this around and get the whole bottom covered. Stop laughing at the back. The most important thing right now is not to worry too much about the layer line showing through, but making sure that it's completely covered. So something like that. What I just want to do at the moment is just get rid of the like the obvious brush marks and whatnot. So just give it some texture. We're going to put something else over the top of it, but it's just really just to make life a bit easier a bit further down the road. Don't you dare land in my paint, little flappy thing. Don't you dare. Go away. Go away. You've come straight back, haven't you? Right. I think that'll do us. We'll dry this out and see what it looks like. Right, so I've got that set up a little bit. Not completely set, but set up a bit. And what I want to do now is I want to take, this is where, this is kill or cure now. What I want to do is take the boat and drop it in. Now, I also want to make sure I try and get it in the middle if I can, so hang on a second. Right, there we go. There. That's more or less straight. It's good enough for our purposes. Good enough for government work, as Barney Kitten always says. Yes, so we'll leave this now to dry, and then we'll put our water effects on the top. So, back in a while. Right, so a couple of days have passed. One of the things with using thick coats of paint like this, it takes a long time to dry. But there you go. I put a couple of coats on this to kind of build it up a little bit. It could possibly do with a bit more, but it's fine. Now, normally at this point I'd put resin on this. But after the USS Missouri video I did, a few people said, you know, well, what do you do if you don't want to use resin? Which is fair enough, because resin is not the nicest stuff in the world to use. And sometimes people are a little bit nervous about using it. It smells, it's, you know, it's not very nice. So there's a couple of other options you can use. We're going to try a couple of different things. So you could use this Mod Podge gloss. That will work quite well. Or you could use something like this. This is Winsor & Newton Gloss Medium. It's basically like gloss varnish, effectively. In fact, you could use a gloss varnish. I mean, you could use something like this. This is Vallejo gloss varnish, or, you know, any other gloss. You know, you could even use this. Anything, really. But these kind of things, you tend to work out a little bit cheaper for stuff like this. So what we're going to do is we are going to just give this a good shake. Make sure it's well mixed. And then we're going to do very similar to what we did with the paint. We're just going to pour this on. Oh, try not to knock the periscopes off. Like that. Oh. And then we're going to take our brush again, and we want to be a little bit careful here because we don't want to mash the paint around too much. And we're just going to spread this out over the surface like this. Now the thing is, this will dry clear. It's quite handy. It goes on like this, so you can see, you know, how much of it you've covered and everything. So, but we'll just put this on, spread it all around, and then let it dry. And we'll do the same as we did with the paint, and just kind of blotch it around just to make sure we get rid of any brush marks. Like that, you see. Right, we'll let that dry and see what it looks like. Right, so that medium is almost dry now. I mean, it's dry on the surface. You can still see some like white patches in there because it will take time to cure all the way through, but it's dry enough for what we need to do. So what we're going to use next is another Winsor & Newton product. It's not a sponsor or anything, it's just that's what it is. This is heavy structure gel. This stuff is great. You've seen me use this before, but basically it's a gel. I'll get under the camera to show you, but it basically just stays wherever you put it. That's the trick of this stuff. So to give you an example, it's like what we'll do is we'll just put some on the front here. I'm not planning on using this to do it with. I'm going to do it with a brush and a toothpick. I just happen to scoop some out with this. So we'll just get an old brush, and we'll just put some on like this around the front here, because this will make our bow wave. And what we can do is we can basically tease this, and if you let me bring the camera in a bit closer. So you can basically tease this into pretty much any shape you want, and it will just stay where you put it, like that, you see. and it just gives you a nice way to create that kind of bow wave. And it lets you create like splashes and ripples and things like that. Like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all down both sides and put this on, and that'll give us a nice interface, if you like, between the water and the submarine. But we'll just put some on like this. And again, you can put this on however you need to, you know, whatever you need to use to put it on. And then you just come back in with a brush or a toothpick or whatever, to just get it how you want it. Now this stuff does take quite a long time to dry. It's one of the few disadvantages of using this, is it does take a long time to cure. Like you're going to be leaving this for probably a day or two to cure properly, but that's all right. It will dry completely clear, although it's quite nice actually at doing like this, because you can kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like when it's finished. Because what we'll do is, once this is cured, we'll come back in and basically paint over this. But let me get this on, and then I'll show you how we're going to kind of maneuver this into place. All right, now like I said, we're just going to work this how we want it to be. So we'll just kind of get it to look like it's splashing up over the front of the sub, and then we'll work our way down the sides. And what we can also do is kind of work it out a little bit to make it look a bit more like a bow wave. Like that, you see. And you can see it's already starting to skin over and go clear. But like I said, once it dries completely, it will go completely clear. And then what we'll do is we'll come back in with some oil paint and just paint it back in so that it looks white again. And what we're going to do here at the back, and you can see I've already started to do that, is we're going to build this up and create a wake. At the back here. Just to make it look a bit more, give it an idea of motion. There you go. I'll do a little bit more touch up on this and then we'll let it dry. Right, 'tis the next day, and as you can see, our structure gel has cured, more or less. There's still a couple of bits like back here that are a little bit uncured still, but the top of it's cured. That's the most important thing. So what we're going to do is we're now going to colour this back in white, and we're going to use the same white that we used before when we did the streaking on the hull. So I've just got a little bit of cardboard here, and I'm just going to dob some of this out. That's probably way too much, but never mind. But again, as I mentioned before, if you put the paint onto the cardboard, it basically leaches out what little oil it has in it. And we've got a brush. This is one of these Airfix Humbrol brushes, the ones they give you with the starter kits and whatnot. So this is just one that's lost its point, so it's good for this kind of thing. And where are my glasses? So I can see what I'm doing, because that would help. Because as is always the irony of these videos, is you can probably see what's going on better than I can. Right, so we'll just get some paint. And what we want to do is just basically just go over this stuff again and just make it look like foam. Just like that, you see. Like that. So we'll just work our way down the side. And the nice thing with this oil paint is you can see it's not, I don't want it to cover too well, because I want it to be almost like translucent, so that it looks like, you know, foam rather than paint. But just like this. So I'll go down both sides of this, like that. And I'll show you what we're going to do on the back as well, just quickly. So we're basically going to do the same thing, but we'll just go over the whole of the back here just to try and hide this propeller, whatever it is. I don't know what you call it on a submarine. Anybody knows anything about submarines, do feel free to chime in. But we'll just go down and just do this whole wake like that. There you go. So I'm pretty sure you get the idea of what I'm doing here. So I'll get on and do the rest of this, and then I think we can wrap this thing up. And here is our finished article. So as you can see, I finished putting the paint on the bow wave and the wake. It looks pretty good. And yeah, I'm quite pleased with how this has come out. It could probably do with being a little bit lower in the water, quite frankly, but you know, this has taken way too long as it is, so it's fine. But yeah, there you go. So hopefully that's given you an idea of how to do some water effects without using resin, just using paint and like Mod Podge or varnish effectively. And it's come out looking all right. So yes, this is the SSN-23, the Jimmy Carter, named after the famous president, who was actually considered a bit of a lame duck at the time, but actually has been somewhat vindicated by history, as it turns out. So there you go. Anyway, hopefully you've all enjoyed this little foray. I've certainly enjoyed making this. It was good fun. As ever, I'd like to thank my top tier patrons, Howard, Amy, Chris and Hawaii Clive O, for their continued support. And I will see you all in the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers. Bye.